Welcome to the party, pal. Your from the neighborhood Master Chaos, back with you once again for part 2, disc 2 of Solid Metal Nightmares, the films of Shinya Tsukamoto. That's what we have in store for us today. Pair of films, Tokyo Fist and Ballet. Two amazing titles for two pretty unique and, in my opinion, quite amazing films. These are first-time watches for me, so I'm going to do my best to break down my opinion and the plot and the special features of everything here on Disc 2. Let's get into it, shall we? Tokyo Fist, of course, a Shinya Tsukamoto film starring the Tsukamoto brothers. Yes, that is indeed the case. Shinya takes center stage here as the lead actor Suda, a meek salaryman who runs into an old pal who is played by his younger brother Koji Tsukamoto. So there's going to be a lot of Japanese names being bandied about, and just in an effort to not confuse you and to make it easier for me to describe the plot, I'm going to refer to Shinya Tsukamoto's character as just Shinya, and Koji. Koji's character is Kojima, but I'm going to call him Koji. So just so you know, Shinya and Koji, that's not their names in the movie. We're just making it easy for each other. Anyway, caught in the middle of these two old friends reuniting is Shinya's wife. And it looks like Koji has the hots for her. And after he sort of makes a pass, it's up to Shinya to sort of, man up and tell the dude to fuck off. But it doesn't go as planned. And Koji beats him to a pulp. This is, of course, the inciting incident that leads to his awakening the inner beast, the inner masculine, testosterone-fueled beast within him that has lain dormant, due to just the rigors of city life. And also, it triggers the change, the awakening, if you will, of his wife as well. This is a very interesting movie. It's essentially a love triangle movie with shades of Fight Club. They came out around the same time, so they weren't really, one did not influence the other, but they very much feel like of the same, cut out of the same cloth, for lack of a better word. They're certainly spiritually similar about meek men trying to transcend their humble, boring existence and finding their real root persona, their real root energy, and breaking out of that sterile bond that the city and daily life puts you in through violence and aggression, which is a big part of the movie. By the way, if you love shadowboxing, if you love to see people hitting a punching bag, this is the movie for you. This is porn for people who love to see other people practice boxing. I mean, the whole movie is essentially a giant training montage of either Shinya's character boxing at the camera or Koji's character boxing at the camera. It's interesting. It sort of adds to the erratic, hyper-realistic, hyper-energetic feel that you find in Tsukamoto's movies. This is probably the closest, I would say, in spirit to something like Tetsuo. It has that same erratic energy. It's shot in color, though. It's a color film, so in some degrees, it's also very similar to Tetsuo 2, which to me I felt were two wildly separate movies, even though they were connected by tone, at least. But here you get a color movie that has the energy of Tetsuo, and I think it's great. I think it's unlike anything I've ever seen before. Think of something like Falling Down meets Fight Club. And you kind of get an idea of what it's about. It's essentially this man who realizes that he has lost something in himself and he's struggling to regain it. Whether it's the love of his wife, who has decided to leave him and shack up with Koji while she goes through her own transformations, or whether it's that inherent, animal instinct in him which has been bred out due to city living. It's a very interesting movie. It's not your typical love triangle movie. It's not your typical boxing movie. It's not your typical drama, urban thriller type of movie. It's very hard to describe, and I think I'm going to be saying that a lot about Shinya's movies. They're very outside the box, very unorthodox, and God bless him. Shinya here and in all his movies, from what I can gather, is providing a very unique and specialized look at the world, at people in general. Now, in the special features, he talks about how most of his movies are how the city relates to the human being and how they work off of each other. I can kind of see that here, definitely in Tokyo Fist. But to me, I think if we're going to take a macro approach, going way, way back and looking at it from a distance, his movies are about how mankind has lost its edge, how mankind has forgotten who they are. And so we become obsessed with random things. Here, Shinya's character is obsessed with revenge, obsessed with getting better, obsessed with getting stronger, obsessed with becoming as good a boxer as Koji so he can get his revenge, so he can gain his masculinity back. Now, the end of the movie is a little tricky to define. I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I'll be honest, I don't 100% know what we're left with. And again, that's the world, right? Sometimes we don't get a perfect beginning, middle, and end. So we may not actually get an answer to our quest. We may not get an end to that journey. Here we're presented with kind of a wrap-up, and I can kind of infer what's going on. And when I'm listening to Tom Mess's commentaries, I see what he's saying, but he gives me a clear picture of like, okay, this means this means that. There's things in here that I didn't know were one thing, and then he said, oh, this is supposed to be that. I'm like, oh, okay, I did not see that coming. I'm not going to ruin anything. All of this is to say that this is not an easy movie. This is not a cookie-cutter movie. This is not an easily definable movie that you can say, oh, it's about this, or it's about that. It is almost a Rorschach test, and I think different people will see different things in this movie. I took it as the journey of a man who realized he's lost something in his life and he needs to improve on it. By the end, I feel that at least the character thinks he has improved, but I'm not sure how the situation is any better. But that's, again, going back to my Western approach and as a screenwriter, my approach of I need everything wrapped up as much as possible, even though I understand that's not how life works. But beyond that, beyond not really getting the ending, beyond not really finding that satisfying, tie it all together moment, I really love Tokyo Fist. I think it's a great damn movie. It's a great experience. And I think movies are, despite, all the other little elements that a movie can be, a movie is, first and foremost, an experience. And Tokyo Fist is a fantastic experience, one I highly recommend. For me, Tokyo Fist is going to get 4 stars. Bullet Ballet, the second feature on here, shares a lot of the same cinematic DNA as Tokyo Fist. It's the story of Goda, a sort of commercial ad executive, salaryman type, again played by Shinya Tsukamoto, who returns home one day after work and finds that his girlfriend has committed suicide.
What? No!
With a gun that apparently she was holding for a friend. It's very unclear how that gun sort of came into the story, at least in the beginning of the movie. It's just mentioned that, oh, she was holding it for a friend or something. Anyway, we're not sure why she committed suicide, and he's not sure why she committed suicide, so it's a big mystery. This mystery leaves a big hole in his life. So what does he decide to do? Well, for some reason that is unclear to us, except for the fact that he has just become obsessed with this specific gun that ended his wife's life, his girlfriend's life, I should say, because they're not married. This specific gun that's ended the girlfriend's life. He decides to look for this gun. He wants to get this gun. He wants to own it. And one can assume it's because it was the last thing she held. It was the last connection she had to the world. And he just wants to have something similar to it so he can maybe feel what she felt. So the first half of the movie, he goes on a quest to look for a gun, specifically a Chief Special. That's what he keeps calling it. It's a 6-shooter type of revolver, and he wants this specific gun because, again, I think it's just a link to the past. This gun search, however, leads him into the path of a young youth gang that loves to tear shit up. They rob people, they break windows, they're just a bunch of hooligan assholes. And he meets a young girl who at first he thinks is sort of trying to proposition him, And then it turns out that she was just luring him into an alleyway so that he could get fucked up by the gang. And funny enough, he unwittingly becomes sort of the guardian angel of this gang through his quest for this gun. Bullet Ballet is probably one of these most strangely plotted films I've ever seen. That's not to say I didn't like it, but I think structurally it is so interesting and so weird that it does not fit neatly into the beginning, middle, and end 3-act structure format. I mean, you could stretch it like taffy here and there and sort of make it fit, but the way the characters meet, the way the characters interact, the way the story unfolds is so unorthodox. Again, I'm going to use that word. I think I'm going to use that quite a bit with Shinya's movies. It's very unorthodox. And that's a great thing because it makes it interesting. It makes it compelling to watch. You're never bored. You always want to know that's the thing about Shinya's movies. You're never boring. You're always engaged. You're either saying, what the fuck? Or you're saying, whoa, what the fuck? So you're either in either mode, and either mode is a great place to be because you're engaged, and being actively into the movie is what you want. That's what the filmmaker wants. The filmmaker wants you along for the ride, and Shinya's movies are designed to bring you along for the ride, whether you like the ride or not, or whether you understand where the hell you're going or not, which is frequently the case. Here's the story of a salaryman who loses his longtime girlfriend to suicide, turns into a gang vigilante story, which is also a father figure story. You could see Shinya's character as sort of the father, the protector type to the young girl that he meets, who I don't know much about her character. We don't get a lot about her backstory, but one can assume that she is either an orphan or doesn't have much of a home life. And Shinya, in a sense, kind of acts like her dad. He's there protecting her, and he's sort of there on her side for a good portion of the movie. So it's a lot of things. It's a vigilante revenge movie. It's a Japanese gang movie. It's a father figure, fatherhood story. And it's a movie about grief, about loss. And those are all powerful, powerful elements. And it's delivered in a very rough fashion, almost film school, black and white style, similar to the original Tetsuo, which I love. I like that he went back to that in the behind the scenes. He talks about wanting to make it documentary-like. Like this was actually happening. This was a real event. And that reads beautifully. I think if it had been shot in color, it would have felt a little more standard. Probably closer to Tokyo Fist, I would say, a little more stylized. But the fact that it's shot in this kind of grainy, black and white, documentary-esque approach really makes the movie 100% feel more realistic, which is, his intended goal to begin with. Tokyo Fist and Bullet Ballet are very similar films in terms of having their main character be a meek salaryman who, by the end, has transcended life, has discovered a new way of living, has awoken his inner dragon, for lack of a better word. And at the end, while it's unclear where the characters end up, they're both changed. I think they're both transformed, and they're both in a better place, despite all the turmoil and grief that they have gone through. Which one did I like better? That's hard. That's hard to say. I think I understood Bullet Ballet a little better, but I appreciated both of them. So it's hard to say which one I like better. But Bullet Ballet is going to get 4 stars, so I think I like them both just the same. By the end of the box set, I'll rank them. But for now, both of these movies get 4 stars. Bullet Ballet is a non-stop, hyper-energetic cinematic journey into the mind of a man who is broken and grieving and looking to connect, and he ends up connecting with the criminal element that was kind of responsible for his girlfriend's suicide. Powerful stuff. I loved it. I genuinely loved it. I think it's definitely a must watch. Both of these must watches for sure. Now, let's talk special features. This one is jam-packed with special features, almost too many. You're going to need a second night just to watch all the special features. You've got audio commentaries by Tom Mez on both movies here, when it's, again, intrinsically important to understanding the films, not just the plots, but the the milieu and the era and Shinya's choices and things like that. 100% recommend the commentary tracks, as I'm going to continue to do so. I'm pretty sure they're going to be solid. Tom Maz does an amazing job here. It really allows you a peek inside the mind of Shinya Tsukamoto. Speaking of peeks inside the mind, you get a couple, actually more than a couple, you get maybe four or five archival interviews here with Shinya Tsukamoto himself. You get one on Tokyo Fist. You get two on Bullet Ballet. Then you get one called General Thoughts, and I believe there's another one. So you get like 4 or 5 little archival interviews there. They're not little. I mean, they range from anywhere from 4 minutes to 34 minutes. I believe the first Bullet Ballet archival interview is 34 minutes. So it's hefty, and you get answers from Shinya as best as he can deliver them about stuff that you would want to know. So I highly recommend you watching those as well. If you want to dig deeper into the movies and know exactly where Mr. Tsukamoto was coming from. Despite the usual trailers and things like that, you get 2 musical performances. You get something called Tokyo Fist Musical Performance, which was, I believe, some kind of live show where they played the theme. Then you get Bullet Ballet's music video, which is very interesting, very hyperkinetic, and definitely fun to watch if you enjoyed the music. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the music. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I did not love the music. I think it definitely fits the feel of the films, but I'm not going to go out of my way to buy a soundtrack or anything. I'll show you the inside. There's the disc, a little bit more of that artwork, Solid Metal Nightmare artwork. This one doesn't necessarily fit into the Solid Metal Nightmare framework. It's very much a flesh and bone movie. There's no steel or metal in sight. But gosh, what a banger of a double feature here. What a super surprise treat. Tokyo Fist and Bullet Ballet, they get some of my highest recommendations ever. I think you're going to love them, but don't expect anything like Tetsuo or Tetsuo 2. They're very different films, but overall, I think quite rewarding. Boom! That's it for Disc 2 Part 2. Next up, I believe we're doing A Snake in June and Vital. I have not seen them, so I'm looking forward to doing so. My friend, thank you for joining me here. Disc 2, Part 2, Solid Metal Nightmares. What a unique pleasure. I love discovering unique directors' point of views. That's what it's all about. Like I said, art is the interpretation of the world through fresh eyes. Unique eyes. Man, I'm down to clown. I can't wait to see the next one. I hope you'll join me for that one, my friend. I look forward to seeing you again. It was a pleasure hanging out with you today, and I hope we get to do it again soon. My friend, I love you. I do. As a matter of fact, I love you just the way you are. I hope this video has found you well on your journey through life. I hope we get to hang out again soon. But until then, I remain to be continued.